Blossom is still...
Okay. Ugh. Okay, here we go. Ready? Sorry.
Where'd you go? Did you go somewhere?
Just disappeared into the ether. Okay.
Hello, welcome back to our channel. This is Shelf Possessed. I am David.
And I'm Craig.
And today we're going to be talking about 12 of our favorite books of the year so far.
So this is the mid-year book freakout tag, and we are excited to be joining the rest of BookTube and kind of sharing our favorite books of the year thus far. We're going to each pick out 6 books, one for each month of the year so far, and kind of share what we loved about them, like why they stood out to us, why we're enjoying them. And at the end of the video, we will be ranking these in order. Not to say that anyone is better than the other, just kind of how we felt about them throughout the year so far. It's exciting because we'll get to come back to these books in December and kind of see if they manage to stay the whole time, right? Because it could change very easily. Yeah. So, do you want to do rock, paper, scissors to see who's going to go first?
Sure.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, shoot. Okay.
Okay.
So, rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Okay. I win. I get to go first. All right. So, my first book is The Silent Patient by Michaelides. And this is a book that you actually told me to read. We've had this book for a long time, and I had just not kind of like picked it up and really spent the time with it. But once I read it, it was just like turning pages nonstop. I couldn't put it down. Like, it was great. I really, really enjoyed this one. I love thrillers, obviously. If you've been here before, you've heard me say that. Sorry. You heard me say that. I really, really loved this one and found it to be really interesting. And he had actually asked me while I was reading it to see if I could predict what happened. And I don't think I got it, right? I don't remember.
I don't think you did.
Yeah. But it left me guessing. Great book. Older book, but still great. His new book has just come out, which I'm excited to read as well. So that's Silent Patient by Michaelides.
My first book is The Visitors by Catherine Burns. Now, this is a book that I immediately, after reading it, told him to read, and he didn't like it as much as I liked it. It follows a brother and a sister in their, I think they're in their mid-40s, early 50s, that are still living together. You're going to see a pattern in the books that I chose. It deals with a lot of sibling dynamics, this group. So they're living together, and then one day the sister starts to hear noises coming from the cellar. That's where I'm going to stop. I was entranced by it. I thought it was a thrilling book. He did not. But yeah, so that was the first one, and I thought it was extremely good and unsettling.
I will say, it does fit all of those criteria. It is thrilling. It is a page turner, but I think the reason that you liked it and the reason I didn't was because it is less thrillery than I would have liked, but it's definitely more character-based, which you love.
It takes a while to get into it. It also takes a while to get to the action of it. But I do like the fact that you don't know if the main character something is wrong with her. Is she just hearing voices in her head or what? I think going back and forth, I think that's what I found very exciting about this book. So The Visitors by Catherine Burns.
Great choice. Yeah. So my next choice is Daisy Jones and the Six. So a slightly older book everyone had talked about, everyone had hyped up. I bought it and wanted to read it, but wasn't sure when it would come across my nightstand. And I finally buckled up and picked it up and read it. And I was floored by this book. I really, really loved it. I am a sucker for 70s music. I'm a sucker for anything Fleetwood Mac related. And if you like Fleetwood Mac and you are interested in that story, Daisy Jones and the Six is the perfect book for you. And then I found out it's actually going to be a TV series, which is actually really, really exciting because I think it warrants that treatment really, really well.
We got that sticker again.
Yeah, that Reese's Book Club sticker. I wish I would have bought it before it was, chosen for that. But what I wasn't expecting about this book, which both made me like it and also made me have some trouble reading it, was that it's essentially written in script form, right? As a theater person, I should absolutely love that, right? I should really, really go for that. It was harder to keep track of stuff as you go through because the whole book is essentially a documentary. It's a documentary about a band and how they, their rise and then ultimately their fall. And it was really, really good, and the characters are so dynamic. But there were sometimes that I had some trouble reading it, but by the time I got into like the second chapter, I was completely over that, and I was just entranced by the book. So,
Taylor Jenkins Reid is a superstar.
Yeah, she's prolific at this point.
I'm listening to Malibu Rising right now, and I think it's great.
Yeah.
So far, I haven't finished it yet. So,
Daisy Jones and the Six, great choice if you are looking for something that you're going to get through really quickly and something that's going to really keep you guessing. This is the book. So there's mine.
My next pick is Klara and the Sun. I cannot tell you how much I loved this book. Ishiguro's writing is just, for me, is perfect. And it's a book about love. It's a book about friendship. It started to make me think about toys from my childhood, toys that I kind of left behind, toys that I kind of discarded and still think about. It kind of made me reminisce about those things. It's a beautiful novel. It's a love story at its center between an artificial friend, I think is what it's called, and the young girl in the book. And I think it's just a beautiful novel, and he will probably never read it. But I think it's glorious. I
will say the way you described it and the way you kind of sold it to me made it sound very interesting. And your take on it is very different than the reviews I read of it.
It's not, there's a lot of people that don't like this book, and, that's fine and that's valid. But I just found some very beautiful moments in this book that I haven't really read in books in quite a while. So, yeah, so that's my second.
Good choice. So my third choice is another book that someone told me to read that had been sitting on our bookshelf for quite a while, and that is The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James. Definitely a horror thriller book, so if you're not into that vibe, then this is not for you. And also, I would call it a ghost story, mixed in with a story about a serial killer and some terrible things that have happened at this motel in upstate New York. It was kind of surprising to me because when I started it, I was going to DNF it. I was definitely going to put it down because it wasn't really going anywhere at first, and I couldn't figure out what was going on, and it kind of frustrated me. But then as I was getting into it, and I was starting to kind of understand the characters and kind of where they were coming from, I definitely got into it a lot more. So I definitely enjoyed this one for sure. This was it was a tough read, but it was good, and I plowed through it once I got into the characters and into what was going. So that's The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James.
Oh my gosh. Okay. My next book, it's tough to even, it's going to be tough to rank this book. It is Claire Fuller's Bitter Orange. We find our main protagonist. She is kind of an architectural researcher, and she has been hired to kind of do an inventory on this kind of landscape of this old mansion that this American has bought. Two other people are also doing kind of inventory over kind of like the furniture in this mansion. She befriends them. They kind of all live in this mansion together. She lives in the attic. She finds a hole, I think it's in her bathroom, that peeks down into their bathroom, and shit goes down. It's like if we found a peephole into our neighbor's bathroom. Would you look? Would you cover it up? or what. But this was also a very thrilling book that kind of goes back and forth in time to the present and then to the past. I think Claire Fuller has become one of my favorite writers. I immediately bought all of her stuff, all of her other books that she's written, and just, again, I mean, that cover too is just fantastic. Look at that. Now you just want an orange, don't you? Yeah. No, this was delightful. I want him to read it ASAP because I need someone to talk to about this book. All right, that's Claire Fuller's Bitter Orange. Thrilling, exciting, a little terrifying. It's also another, like the Visitors. It's a very slow burn, but once you get to the action of it, you can't put it down.
Okay, my next choice is The Push by Ashley Audrain. So I had heard about this book all over the place, and I bought it thinking I would read it instantly, and then I had other things kind of come up. And when I read the description of it, I was like, okay, that sounds like Rosemary's Baby. That sounds like Baby Teeth. It sounds like it would be a really interesting take on the maternal, like the new mother genre, basically. And I was really pleasantly surprised because while I would not classify it as a thriller or a horror novel, and I could compare elements of it to Rosemary's Baby, it is much more character-driven. It is much more moody. It is much more interested in the psyche of these characters as opposed to their motivations and what they're actually doing. So it's less action-driven and more character-driven, which surprised me because, as we've already discussed, I don't typically love that kind of stuff. I like, heavy plot, moving forward. This was not so much involved with that. It was, you're kind of living in this woman's head for almost the entire story and kind of dealing with the trauma that she's kind of dealing with after giving birth to a child. So it's a really interesting exploration of like what postpartum depression looks like and what that means internally and externally. So I thought that was really great. So
what a great gift to give to new mothers. I bought you 2 books, Rosemary's Baby and The Push.
Yeah. I don't think that they enjoyed it as much as I did, but I did go in thinking it was one thing and came out definitely thinking it was something else and was still happy with that. So that's The Push by Ashley Audrain.
I have not read that yet, but now
you need to.
I'll read it now. Okay, I'm just gonna keep Claire Fuller going. This is Unsettled Ground by, again, Claire Fuller, who I have just fallen in love with her writing this year. This book is about 2 siblings in their 50s. They still live with their mother. The mother unexpectedly dies. And it's them trying to figure out how to live in the world and take care of themselves. What I loved about this book and what I loved about Bitter Orange as well is that these characters, they're almost like people that you would just ignore and walk by in the streets and not really pay any mind or attention to. And Claire Fuller kind of puts these characters in the forefront. And you learn a lot about them psychologically, but also how they deal with the world, especially a world that, they haven't really been a part of. And it's them trying to find themselves in this big world now. I mean, in their 50s as well, which I found interesting. And you just don't get a lot of main characters like that. But yeah, that was delightful as well. And it's up for, I think it's the
Women's Prize.
The Women's Prize as well. So that's my pick as well. It's going to be hard to rank these in order because these are all so
They're
good.
All great.
Yeah.
My next one is another book that people were raving about and talking about, and I was like, I need to understand this, I need to know it, and then I fell in love with it. Absolutely. It is Detransition Baby by Torrey Peters. I was shocked and surprised and did not imagine that this book would go where it goes and would kind of talk about the trans experience in the way that it talks about the trans experience, and gave me so much insight and so much empathy and compassion for what that process is like and then what it means to make a family. This book is really about understanding what makes a woman, what makes a man, what the process is like to transition and then to ultimately detransition, and then how queer people create a family. That was the part about this book that just kind of shocked me. That I absolutely just fell in love with was the discussion of what makes a family and how do you create one, if you are not heteronormative in any way. And so I'm excited that people are talking about this book. I'm excited that it was also up for the Women's Prize. I loved this, and I can't wait for him to read it. It deals a lot with transness and queer families and what that means to the world and what it means individually. And I kind of fell in love with these characters, and I got really excited when I also found out that this was also going to be a series. So it's Detransition Baby by Torrey Peters.
All I have to say is Ann Patchett's state of wonder. This book asks the question, if there was a drug in the Amazon rainforest that let women continue to have babies well into their 70s, would we jump on that? It's an interesting read. It was an adventure, really, and I think that's what I loved most about this book. The main character is a doctor. She's a researcher. Her mentor goes missing in the Amazon forest, so she takes that journey to find him. And throughout the book, they're trying to find them, but she's also trying to figure out how these women are getting to their 70s and still able to procreate and to have children. It was a delightful read. A delightful read. Makes you think about science and the responsibility of it. If we have this chance to do it, would we do it? And why? And it says a lot about you and how you answer that question yourself. But yeah, this was one. I was very surprised by it. I don't know. I had second thoughts when I started it, but once I got into the story, it really takes you on an adventure through the Amazon rainforest. So.
Didn't you kind of tell me that it's kind of built like a thriller in a way?
It is, because there are the mysteries behind where is her mentor. Did he die? Was he kidnapped? Was he murdered? So that kind of takes you through these pages. And I think this was one of my first Ann Patchett books. I had never read her work before, and now I'm a big fan.
And we have a couple of her books already, right?
Now we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember I read about the Dutch House last year and bought it, and it's still sitting there waiting to be read. So maybe this year at some point.
You have to be in the right frame of mind to kind of
Yeah.
sit with her and her work, because it'll
Grab you.
focus.
Yeah. All right. My last choice is yet again another popular book that people were talking about, and I felt like I needed to also pick it up and read it. So my last choice is Finlay, Donovan is Killing It by Elle Cosimano. This book was great. This is what I would call a beach read, but in the winter. If you need something to curl up with and just kind of, peel through, this is the book for you. Also, apparently the beginning of a series, so this is a really good, a good way to start it off. If you like detective books, if you like mystery novels, if you like thrillers, if you like a strong female protagonist, two strong female protagonists, this is a book that you need to read. If you haven't heard of this is about Finlay Donovan, who is an author, not a great author, to be fair, and she's struggling to kind of continue her next book, and then finds herself being contracted to kill someone, and then she kind of has to contend with what that looks like, and she's kind of a fumbling, befuddled, middle-aged woman who doesn't know how to handle this thing that's been given to her. So it's really great. It's really easy to read and easy to get through, and you'll just kind of walk out of it loving what you read. So
that last page, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
that last page.
It does. It completely subverts what you think it's going to be and becomes something else, and you actually really do end up rooting for the characters. And I really, really loved it, and just thought, you can't have a book that looks like this, right, and it not be great, and it lives up to the expectation of the cover. So it's great.
I want to retake that cover, but it's me.
Well, that's
great.
Broken glasses are what really make it, I think. So yeah.
My last book is You'll Never Believe What Happened to Lacey by Amber Ruffin and her sister, Lacey Lamar. This book kind of follows stories of microaggressions against Lacey that have happened, that she has shared with Amber throughout their years, especially in the workplace, in the public and private spheres. And it is both unsettling at times, completely hilarious, but also of the moment. I didn't hear a lot about this book when it came out. I didn't see a lot of booktubers talking about it. So when I read it, I was like, "What? Why isn't anybody talking about this book?" I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it's Amber Ruffin, who is one of my favorite performers of all time. And it's her and Lacey's voices are just, they're siblings, and they have two very unique voices in the way they see the world, and it just kind of goes back and forth between them, and I loved it.
And Amber Ruffin is just amazing and hilarious, and you can't go wrong. So, yeah,
crazy stories about racism. It's just, it makes you think and it makes you laugh, and I think that's the key ingredients, right? Perfect.
Great choice. All right. The time has come, the walrus said.
Let's do it.
All right. We've revealed our 12 favorite books of the year so far, and now we're going to kind of hold ourselves accountable, hopefully in December, and see where these books rank in December. So we're going to rank these 6 and eventually show our top favorite choice of the year so far, right? Okay. This doesn't mean, by the way, that these books are the worst of what we chose, just what we liked the most, and then kind of went down the ladder from there.
They're all good.
They're all good. We wouldn't have picked them if they weren't good. So, okay, so I think I'm first, right? All right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go from number 6 and work to number 1. So you're going to see those on the screen right next to you, right here. So I'm just going to start with number 6, which was The Push by Ashley Audrain. All right. Drum rolls. Number 5 is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. Okay. Number 4 is The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James. Number 3, Finlay, Donovan is Killing It by Elle Cosimano. And number 2, which was really tough. Deciding between 1 and 2 was really tough. But number 2, Daisy Jones and the Six. And number 1, the first book, the book that I loved the most in the past 6 months, is Detransition Baby by Torrey. So those are my 6. You're up next. Ready? We're going to throw those graphics up over my face.
Okay. Okay, my number 6 choice is, of course, Catherine Burns' The Visitors. My number 5 choice is, of course, Claire Fuller's Bitter Orange. My number 4 choice is Ann Patchett's State of Wonder. Once again, glorious, beautiful, the best journey you will ever take in your reading. My number 3, this was extremely hard to pick between these last 3, but it has to be Klara and the Sun. Number 2 is, of course, You'll Never Believe What Happened to Lacey. And my number 1 choice, and my ride or die, at least for 2021, is going to be Claire Fuller's Unsettled Ground. It is going to be the one to beat, for me anyway, this year. So it's always going to be there at the very top.
I'm excited to see what December brings. I'm excited to see if it moves down the list at all, or if it stays at number 1. Like, we have a lot of reading to do in the next 6 months, so I'll be curious if any book kind of takes its number 1 spot.
I think it's going to stay.
Yeah. We talked about this in the very first video because I have some high expectations for books that are going to be released. So I will be very curious to see how I feel about these books in December, right?
What's one book that you're looking forward to, at least this year, that hasn't come out yet?
I think that the first, well, there's 2 that are really like, it's the Riley Sager Survive the Night, and then the Final Girl Support Group, which is by Grady Hendrix. So those 2 are both top of my list right now. Yeah. Anything for you?
Joyce Carol Oates has a book coming out in August called Breathe that I'm looking forward to. If there's one. It's always, she publishes a lot, but when she does, I immediately want to grab whatever she reads as well. She's another one of those authors that, you know, I will buy everything that she writes.
Well, thank you for joining us for this mid-year check-in, mid-year book freakout tag. Thanks for coming back. We hope that you enjoyed this. Share your top 6 in the comment section below, right? Put what your top 6 has been so far so we can see if we overlap at all, if we like the same things.
If we want to buy them.
Yeah, yeah. We'll put links to all of these books, too, in the description box below so that if you want to purchase them, you totally can. And we want to know kind of what you liked and where you are. And if you completely disagree with our list or you think one of these books is absolutely, like, should be number 1 and it's not number 1, tell us what that is. We want to know. We want to, you know, talk to you in the comments about it. So if they want to see these in graphic form, where can they find it?
You can find us at shelf_possessed, and you can leave your comments, and then you can also leave your book recommendations there as well.
And feel free to send us a DM there, too, because you know, we'd love to hear from you there, too, if you're following us on Instagram as well. And we will be doing very soon our June wrap-up because we are this close to finishing our June books. So come back next week and you'll see our June wrap-up, and we'll kind of talk about all the books we read this month as well.
I cannot wait.
He's pretty much finished with his June books at this point. I still have some pages left to go. So.
I have questions, I have thoughts, I have very strong opinions.
Yeah.
That I can't wait to share with you all.
So thanks for coming back. Thanks for joining us on this journey. We are Shelf Possessed. I'm Craig.
And I'm David.
And thanks for coming. We'll see you again next time.
Bye, folks.
Bye.